Hello and welcome everybody to a discussion about Sawzall. Okay, reciprocating saws, okay? So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about my past and my perceptions. I want to talk about what this is and why I have this. And then I want to talk about homeowners. And is this a required tool for your average homeowner? So think about that. What tools? A homeowner comes to you and says, what power tools do I need? What handheld power tools do I need if I'm a homeowner? Is this on your list? All right, so this summer, let's talk about my past. So previously, I always looked at these as kind of like the duct tape of tools. This isn't perfect for anything, maybe one exception. It's kind of a jack of all trades, like duct tape. Duct tape isn't perfect. That's not the perfect way to fix something or deal with a problem. Duct tape, generally, I've seen used as just kind of a flex-all. Mythbusters had a great episode about it. They made a boat out of it. You could flex it into any situation because it's duct tape, okay? And that's kind of how I saw this. You know, I've watched people in my past cut through MDF with this, and the line is just like everywhere. Not even close to being straight. Just horrendous, okay? And so I was always kind of like, oh, the most useless tool. You know, it's not the right tool for the job. It is an tool that you can flex into the job. I might title the video that, because that's how I perceived it. I'm right. This is the most useless tool ever. However, I came to a situation this summer where I was demolishing a deck. Okay, I have a chainsaw. Okay, I've done tree work. Okay, in college I was on the tree crew. So, you know, a chainsaw, I can't go through a deck with a chainsaw with any sort of safety because there are nails and screws and metal and what's behind that, you know, what's underneath that. I just can't take a chainsaw and just, you know, a plunge cut into my deck. So I wanted, try to be safe, okay? And so I purchased this summer with the intent of demolishing a deck. And demolishing woodwork, you know, and you can get blades that go through nails and wood. It seems like that's a purpose that this really excels in, demolition work. And that's how I thought. Again, you know, I was like, oh, it's all right. So going back to my memory of watching people make horrific cuts with this, I tried this, okay? So my first thought is it's effective at demolishing a deck. You know, I had no problem cutting through anything. You get the right blade on there, it goes right through nails, like, and you're done. You're like, oh, all right, let's throw this in the dumpster. So it worked out really well for me. And that's all I've used this for. But when I was doing it, I was playing with it. Let's say practicing with it. And I learned a couple of things. Okay, so when I'm cutting wood. So I have 20 years of woodworking experience. It's hand work, okay? I built everything from aquariums by hand, using hand tools, planes, chisels, mortise and tenon, tables, shelves, like housing dados, shelves. Okay, so I like hand tools, and everything you do with hand tools is precise, okay? When I see people use this for construction, it's like, oh, there's a 2x4, they nail it in place, and they're like, oh, there's some stick off, I need this to be flush on top, and they just take their Sawzall, zing across the top, and it's just like, as a woodworker, making things out of oak and maple, it's like, or walnut, you're just like, that's really rough. But they don't care, they're just gonna sheetrock over it. Back to the duct tape analogy, okay? So, I was working with this, practicing with it, and when I'm doing woodworking by hand, you get a saw blade, doesn't matter how thick that blade is. If you want that blade, if you wanna make that cut straight, you need to angle your blade. And so when you angle your blade, you're making that nice long cut, and you have that, and you follow your line. So you're cutting into your line, and then you can, you make a straight cut. Kind of something that you practice, all right? Because if you just go straight down, even with a big, thick blade, it's very easy to skew offline. So with this, I tried it, okay? For starters, I learned real quick, it took me 2 seconds. When I'm cutting with this, you know how with a chainsaw, you want to use that part right up by the actual, the saw itself, not the tip. You want to stay away from the tip because it'll kick. So, with chainsaws, I always cut it right here. So with this, I cut it right here, and then it was slamming into the wood, so I just pushed it up against the wood, and no problems, okay? 2 seconds to figure out. Pretty simple device to use. So butt this up against the piece of wood I'm cutting, it just goes straight through it. Like butter, right? A hot knife through butter. All right, but I wanted to make a straight cut. So what I did was I started to angle it like this or like this, and it worked okay. But I found that, this is just my experience, this is not a recommendation. I found that if I actually tilt it a little bit more like this, with this still butted up against the wood, that I could get a pretty straight cut. I wasn't going anything crazy angles to get a straight cut, but just something like that, and I could get a very straight cut, depending on what angle I was holding it at. You can just rock it up and you can make those pretty straight cuts. Blew my mind how effective this was. So after we demolished our deck, and this came in real handy, by the way, demolition top notch, I encountered a situation in our unfinished basement where the people that lived here previously had installed a rough kitchenette, okay, just on concrete. And there is a gas valve in some drawers. There's no sink because there's no water down here, but it's just like a gas stove. It's a gas range and a refrigerator, and that's all there is. It's just like, all right, whatever, but it's there. And I think it was their old fridge, their old gas range, whatever. But they had arranged it in such a way that the drawers, when you would close the drawer, it would hit the gas valve. I was like, ugh, and this was a dovetailed piece to get, drawer, with dovetails on the side, and and if I were to build it, okay, I know how to make dovetails. I'd use a chisel. I'd make those dovetails again, made out of maple, and I would use a plow plane. I would cut it out so the bottom of the drawer would flush up against it exactly like they had. But I was like, this is in our basement. It's unfinished. This is garbage. I just want this drawer to stop hitting this gas valve. And so I was like, I'm going to flex this like duct tape and see what happens, okay? And so I had practiced making straight cuts, so I felt a little competent with it. So I made 3 cuts, 1, 2, and I drilled 2 holes on it. I'm not comfortable. I was trying to do some like plunge cuts with this. Chainsaws are super easy to do plunge cuts, but with this, I was trying to. I didn't feel comfortable doing that with the drawer, so I drilled 2 holes and then just made a cut, and it cut pretty straight because of the angle I took on it, and I was pretty happy with it. So it is pretty convenient, okay? So it beat my expectations as like a tool that you can use with some level of precision if you practice with it. So kind of blew my mind. So do I feel like this is useless? No, I feel like, number one, it has a very solid, this is good for demolition in my mind as like one of the top tools. Very effective. The other thing is, for any sort of other cut that doesn't need to, be cut by hand and planed and sanded and finished, this does the job, so why not use it? Very convenient tool. And that's how I see it. Now, going back to the question, at the beginning when I introduced this, would you recommend this as a must-have tool for a homeowner? That's where it gets kind of like, yeah, I can see that. So in our attic, I've, made some shelves out of 2x4s just so we can put our luggage on it, right? So we're not just plopping it on the insulation. So just some 2x4s, they stick up like 6 inches, 2x4s across, just holes in between them, right? And you just throw your luggage, we throw our luggage out there, there's a box up there. Okay. What tool am I going to use to cut those 2x4s? Am I going to use a chainsaw? No, I'm not going to use a chainsaw. In our attic, it's a circular saw. You could use a circular saw. That would be fine. But this is what gets flexed in real quick. So I'm having a hard time not recommending this to somebody. So let's go through the list, okay? Handheld tools for indoor use in the home. So we're not talking about weed trimmers or lawn mowers or leaf blowers. My leaf blower I use all the time, by the way, super useful. We're talking about like handheld tools. Power drill driver, maybe an impact driver. If you do automotive work, you'll need a dual action, right? Sander, polisher, whatever, take your pick. After those things, circular saw, drill driver, impact driver, DA, Sawzall. Isn't that the next one on the list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm leaving out a bazillion tools, but like I talked about impacting like some of the, simple ones, but do you need a table saw, a bandsaw? It depends for what everybody is, but like just your average homeowner, do you need a Sawzall? I'm interested to hear your comments. Very quickly, I'm leaning towards this. This is extremely handy. I have duct tape. I have a Sawzall. kind of synonymous in my mind. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'm excited to read your thoughts. There'll be pros out there with way more experience than I have. I have a summer of use, okay? That's what the channel's about, right? The hobby, everybody's favorite hobbies. Some people, it's housework. Maybe I'll make another video about power tools for the home as I see it as a hobbyist. So if you enjoy this content, please subscribe. Thank you everybody for watching. My name is John Hobby.